right, so here we're going to start with EMI403-1. So this will be our exit ticket that we take on 10/18. So again, I'm going to go, and this is EMI403, so it's just a little bit different. But the first step always is going to be to read the question. So, which scientist believes that cold snaps are evidence of climate change? So right there, you read the question, and you look for the detail. So you pick your detail, and then you go back to passage, and you find the matching detail. Okay, so this one says, which scientists believe that cold snaps are evidence of climate change? So I'm just looking for a scientist here. I have cold snaps and evidence of climate change. So first I need to find what cold snaps are. So right now I see cold snaps in scientist 1, but then this says many other signs point to the reality of a changing global climate, but this particular seasonal abnormality was an isolated anomaly and nothing more. So that would be not scientist 1, not both, because it says that it is an isolated anomaly. It only happens once. Now if we go to scientist 2, it says that the influx of polar air across Northeast was not an isolated fluke, nor was it a sign that climate change is fictional. Quite the opposite. The opposite of fictional here is true, so that means that B is going to be our answer. What scientist believes that polar air sweeps are a sign that climate change is fictional? So, climate change is fictional. Now, this says the reality of a changing global climate, and this one says that it's the opposite of fictional. So there we're going to have neither scientist 1 or scientist 2. So your correct answer for number 2 is actually H. Number 3, which scientist believes that the polar vortex in the Midwest was not an indicator, but a chance happening? So if we go back to here, and we're talking about the polar vortex in the Midwestern region of the United States, and was it up to chance? So right here, this says anomaly, and that's going to match chance. So that's going to be scientist 1. Number 4 says, which scientists believe that seasonal abnormalities are indicative of climate change? Now, we already know from reviewing this passage that that's going to be scientist 2, but this is how you would look for that. So, if I'm looking for this, the influx of polar air was not an isolated fluke. So this is what you need to focus on, is where it says not an isolated fluke. And that's going to tell you that it is indicative. So you have to try and find out what the question means in step 2. What does the detail really mean? So, number 5. Which scientist would imply that climate change is a fictional cause invented by government protesters? Now here, this one says, whenever a slightly unusual weather pattern intrudes on public consciousness, are ready on all sides to decry it as a sign of human-driven global climate change. This makes for excellent headlines, but it's not good science. And here, it says that that climate change is happening in that last paragraph. But the answer here is still going to be neither scientist 1 nor scientist 2 because of this sentence right here. Many other signs point to the reality of a changing climate.